Welcome to another session of Inside Outlooks, where we know that personal growth is an inside job. How we think, what we think, and why we think it are what determines our level of success and happiness. It's time to take a look inside to change the world around us.
Owning the fear starts with, again, we've said it a lot in our conversation here, it's being curious, right? So a step-by-step way that we came up with it is a 5-step process of owning it. And owning it, the word own, I think, is very
Take responsibility.
yeah, it's special in this case, right? It's utilized intentionally. So you either own something or you're a victim of something, right? So it's easy for us to be a victim of fear. What we want to do is we want to flip that and have ownership to our fears.
Right.
So 5-step process.
5-step process. Starting with
An R.
pirates love our 5-star, our 5R process.
Right.
R. First, we start with recognize.
So we have to know when the fear arises or appears.
Okay.
We have to know it. We have to then, by knowing it, it's like going to a doctor. You got a pain and you're fearful of it. Once it's named, there's less fear around it because now it has a name.
Sure.
So what we're looking to do is recognize it and name it. Number 2. So once you recognize it and name it, you want to respond to it, right? So if we bury our emotions, right, what's going to happen? We're a volcano, right?
Basically, if we bury them, they're going to grow like a seed.
Yeah, just keep pushing them down.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of us are very good at that because we take ourselves maybe a little too seriously. But for whatever reason, as human beings, we seem to be very good at burying those feelings. Probably goes back to one of the 6 basic fears, where we don't want to show who we truly are.
Sure.
Um,
Fear of what people think.
yeah. So
Yeah.
in that process of burying, you are not owning that fear.
Right.
You're not recognizing. So you need to recognize. So
You're nurturing it.
yeah, right. You need to feel it.
Yeah.
I think we're afraid to feel our feelings, especially if they're fear, because fear can come out in anger. It can come out in a number of different ways. So you do have to feel it. You have to feel it in a very safe way, in a very graceful way. It's very tough to be graceful when you're angry, but
Sure.
to kind of I don't know, what am I trying to say? Feel it.
Yeah, well, I mean, get vulnerable with it.
Okay.
And which really leads into the next one, which is reflect. And, reflect is how do you build a relationship, right? I mean, think of dating, think of anything, clients, if you're in sales or anything else, is you ask questions, right? You ask questions of them. If you just tell them about yourself, it's not building a relationship. But if you ask questions, right? And so it's the same with ourselves. We've got to build a relationship with ourselves by asking ourselves questions, asking the harder questions of ourselves.
Yeah.
For instance, if you ask yourself, well, I don't know, am I a good leader? Let's use that, right?
Mhm.
Well, instead, just throw a how in front of most of your questions,
How am I going to do?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
So you're redirecting
so
the answer.
I'm feeling, whatever, I'm feeling panic. Well, how panicked am I feeling, right? How can I deal with that? How,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Anyway, the point is we want to ask more questions of ourselves.
It's
that we
hard
don't
to ask.
normally do.
Yeah, I think from a reflection standpoint, what you're saying is it's hard to ask. It's hard to follow up a binary question. Am I a good leader? Yes or no?
Right. It's
And you're done
Right.
with either answer, right? It's
Yeah.
how am I a good leader, or how can I be a good leader? It opens up to be curious about the multitude of ways that you can be a good leader.
Well, it's like, so people ask you how you are. Oh, I'm fine, right? Okay, so ask yourself, how am I? Because it's not.
Yeah, am I really fine?
Right? Define it. It's not what you would say to somebody asking you that, but answer for yourself. How am I really?
Yeah.
Right? What's going on? I know I've had countless clients that are like, what do I, when I tell them journaling is great, right? Well, what do I journal? I said, I don't care what you journal. Journal that you're upset because the grocery store is out of your favorite kind of ice cream. Whatever comes to the top of your mind, get it out, because that's the stuff that's keeping you from getting to what we're talking about, which is the deep-seated stuff that we don't think about every day.
Yeah.
All right. That's why we got to ask more questions. But sometimes you got to get rid of the top of mind crap from your commute or from whatever you've had in your day.
It's clearing out the cobwebs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next is to reconnect.
Right. So reconnect, there's a number of different ways to reconnect. So I love to say in my coaching, like, what do you celebrate? Even if it's a small thing. So what we're saying here with reconnect is you do have to find a way to celebrate. Celebrate what you just learned about yourself.
So you're
Celebrate.
saying rejoice.
I'm saying
There's
rejoice.
another R.
Yes, rejoice. The
Yeah.
idea to reconnect, you're reconnecting with yourself, celebrate that whole process. Only until you get through these steps can you change your behavior. Right? And at each level, there's curiosity and awareness. And every time you go from one step to the next, it actually opens up more, opens up more, opens up more. And then when you're reconnecting and rejoicing, even if it's a small fear, like for me was jumping out of a plane. That for me, I celebrate that all the time. It's a great story. It was the one thing that drove me to do it one more time, right? Sure. So I can have that as an example, a blueprint to even something that is more of a self-awareness fear over a primitive fear.
Yeah, and it's back to the reflection part of things, that once you reflect, then you can choose the path, right? And it may be the path you're on, and you may decide that's okay. Or it may be, I need to go in a different direction.
Yeah.
Right. But the point is, you now have a choice. Whereas before, you were just going down the road and you didn't even know there was a turn.
Yeah.
Right. And so that allows us to then celebrate because, wow, I chose to continue going the way I was going, or I chose to take a left turn and go a different direction. And that's the celebrate part, the rejoice, the reconnect.
Yeah. Then at that point, you have no more fears in your whole life. You're done. You went through
That's it.
4 steps and you're done.
Thank you very much.
Right.
But
What's the final R?
Repeat.
Rinse
Rinse and repeat.
and
If you
repeat.
want to add an extra.
Because it's going to come up, right? So it's emotional responses, they're feeling responses, they're thought responses. They're constantly going to come up because we're a walking around thinking being. So no matter how small the fear is, no matter how large the fear is, when you overcome it, you're going to be in the process of repeating. So once you repeat that, it becomes a little bit more easy next time.
Yeah. And I think the lesson to close this out is that, Dave and I are here, you're hearing us talk this stuff out in front of you. And there's a reason we do that, right? Because it helps us. It helps us identify this stuff in our own lives. And that's the vulnerability, right? Dave and I know each other well enough now that we can be vulnerable, but that doesn't happen. It's not instantaneous. And so if you've got somebody that can bounce things off of, it helps considerably. The other message I want to get out there too is that we're both coaches. And if you have a coach that tells you they got it all figured out, get a new coach.
Yeah,
right? Because we're learning this all the time from each other, from other people, from experiences, from life.
From my clients.
Right, exactly. From our
I'm
clients.
learning more from my clients than I ever learned from hiring a coach. Now, it's valuable when I hire a coach, but there are little tidbits in coaching them that I see, wow, that really brings out something in me.
Yeah, and it's really hard to overcome fear on your own. 100% on your own, right? Because you're just processing your thoughts with the same thoughts that were there to create the fear, or the primitive side of things, the thoughts that went from programming and from life, right? So
we're done. All right.
We are done.
We are done. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for attending.
Thanks for listening, and remember, your outside world is an inside job. See you next time. Hey, can we get 2 more over here? Make them double.